Here's a sobering stat. Despite the fact that El Chapo has been in prison now for more than 2 years, the violence in Mexico has actually increased, breaking a record 31,174 murders in 2017.
And it hasn't gotten much better by 2023 either. In fact, murder is at an all-time high in Mexico, and it's all thanks to the nasty drug lords and their notorious cartels. That's because, to a drug lord, anyone who stands in their way is expendable, and if someone tries to assassinate them, well, they will meet an end worse than death. Let's explore the terrible deaths of cartel enemies who tried to kill infamous drug lords. Ramon Arellano Felix. Ramon Arellano Felix was born in 1964 in Sinaloa. Ramon and El Chapo would become mortal enemies, but interestingly enough, they started out together in the mighty Guadalajara Cartel. Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo, aka El Padrino. In 1989, the Guadalajara Cartel crumbled into 3 tinier cartels: Tijuana, Sinaloa, and Juarez. El Chapo took charge of the Sinaloa, and Ramon and his brother Benjamin took charge of the Tijuana cartel. Ramon was Benjamin's mad dog. He was 6'2", weighed 220 pounds, and had the short temper that cartels want from their trusted soldiers. He became known as the brutal enforcer, terrifying even violent cartel members. As his armies grew, so did his taste for blood. Soon, he was killing civilians, pregnant women, and children.
Mexican drug cartel hit on an LA street. This man, the assassin.
When he was begging for his life, I did say, this is for Ramon Arellano. I wanted him to know why he was dying.
It turns out that the man had tried to assassinate Ramon. But around the same time, Ramon also killed a pregnant woman who he suspected was talking to the cops. He even killed her sister just to prove a point. He wanted people to know what would happen if they crossed him or his brother. But around the same time, Ramon Arellano Felix would cross El Chapo. After he took charge of the Sinaloa cartel, El Chapo offered Ramon and Benjamin a partnership. The brothers rejected the offer. El Chapo was still young and inexperienced, and they saw him as an amateur. That was the beginning of El Chapo's war against Ramon and Benjamin. First, he began using their smuggling routes secretly, making money off their work. Then, he sent his right-hand man, El Rayo Lopez, to negotiate with the brothers. But Ramon shot him in the face point blank. He knew about El Chapo's secret smuggling. The Sinaloa-Tijuana war escalated like never before. By 1992, the DEA wanted Ramon in prison. The same year, El Chapo orchestrated a shootout at a nightclub called Christine's in the resort city of Puerto Vallarta, where he knew Ramon would be. Ramon narrowly escaped, but several of his sicarios, as well as innocent bystanders, were killed. Meanwhile, Ramon became a psychopathic murderer, killing anyone who even looked at him the wrong way. He once tested a new gun on a pedestrian. By 1997, Ramon was on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list. Ironically, he was hiding in the U.S., having grown long hair and put on weight to change his appearance. In 1995, he was the accidental subject of a TV prank for David Letterman's Late Show.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Are you Michael Jordan?
Are you Michael Jordan?
No entiendo.
Huh?
Huh?
No entiendo.
Oh, he speaks Spanish.
He was trying to blend into the American environment so much that he ended up attracting more attention, but no one knew they were pranking a notorious murderer. However, his life would soon come to a brutal end. On the 10th of February 2002, Ramon Arellano Felix was stopped by a police officer for a traffic light infraction in Mazatlan, Sinaloa. As soon as the officer approached his car, Ramon drew his gun and shot him twice in the chest. As he was falling to his death, the officer shot back at Ramon, hitting him right in the head. At first, it seemed like just another incident in the increasingly violent streets of Mexico. 4 weeks later, police have learned that the incident struck the single biggest blow against the world narcotics trade since the death of Pablo Escobar. One of the dead men turned out to be none other than Ramon Arellano Felix, the world's most powerful drugs baron and a leading fugitive on the FBI's most wanted list. You might wonder why it took 4 weeks for the police to identify Ramon. Well, he'd had plastic surgery, another desperate attempt at hiding his identity in his home country. He knew El Chapo would be looking for him. But El Chapo was a very powerful man. He had people infiltrated by the police and rival cartels, so the minute Ramon stepped into Mexico, he knew. And the catch? The officer who fatally shot Ramon was working for none other than El Chapo. El Rey said that when El Chapo had corrupt police officials pull over the Tijuana cartel leader in front of a hotel, a shootout ensued, leaving Ramon dead. During his trial, former cartel member El Rey said El Chapo confessed to him that if anything had really given him pleasure, it was to have killed Ramon Arellano. El Chapo's message was clear: this is what you get for messing with me. Peter Macalise. Before El Chapo was Pablo Escobar and his notorious Medellin cartel in Colombia. By 1989, when the Guadalajara Cartel was coming to a brutal end in Mexico, Pablo Escobar had climbed the peak of the drug trade in Colombia. He was making $50 million a day in cash. Escobar killed and maimed his way to the top of the game, and he continued to kill anyone who stood in his way. This is why a lot of people wanted Pablo Escobar dead. Mexican authorities were working hand in hand with the DEA to bring him down and reduce the Medellin cartel to ashes. All the people wronged by him and their families had come together with the same goal. Their vigilante group, Los Pepes, literally stood for Perseguidos por Pablo Escobar, persecuted by Pablo Escobar. But there was someone else who wanted to kill Pablo Escobar, a Scottish mercenary by the name of Peter Macalise. Peter was born in Glasgow, Scotland in 1942. He was brought up in Ridgely on Glasgow's outskirts and inches away from the infamous Barlinnie prison where his violent father served time.
What did you run away for, Peter?
My dad.
What was that? Were you scared of your dad?
At that time, yes.
So Peter joined the army aged 17. He enlisted in the parachute regiment and went on to become a member of the elite 22nd Regiment SAS. In 1969, he left the army and felt completely lost. He built up a terrifying penchant for aggression, and without a place to channel it, he started assaulting his loved ones. He even spent time in prison for assaulting a girlfriend. So, during the 1970s, he found work as a mercenary in the Angolan Civil War and later in Zimbabwe and South Africa. In 1976, Peter met Dave Tompkins in Angola. Tompkins was a regular soldier, but he knew how to make deals and supply weapons. The unlikely pair became great friends, and soon Dave had an idea. They should enroll on a mission to kill Pablo Escobar. Looking for more adrenaline and dangerous excitement, Peter said yes, but they wouldn't be working with the authorities. Nope. This was a mission for the rival Cali Cartel. The Cali Cartel pointed Peter toward Escobar's luxurious Hacienda Napoles ranch. They believed Escobar would be most off guard there. Peter then got on a helicopter and flew over the ranch for reconnaissance. He was shocked to see a zoo full of exotic animals, a collection of old and luxury cars, a private airport, and a bull ring. But other than that, the mission got a green light.
So I seen a vehicle with 4 men in it, with a machine gun on the back, coming towards the airfield, and my heart was going bump, bump, bump.
Peter and Dave had a dozen mercenaries working under them, but none of them knew who they were planning to kill. The mission had to be as secretive as possible. The plan was simple enough: fly 2 helicopters into Hacienda Napoles, bring a dozen angry mercenaries into Escobar's luxury home, and shoot through security all the way to Pablo. Then bring his head as a trophy to the Cali Cartel. But that never happened. One day, Peter got word that Pablo Escobar was at his ranch. He gave the signal and everyone left. As he climbed in his helicopter, he got ready to kill the most wanted drug lord in history at that time. Minutes before reaching Escobar's ranch, the helicopter crashed headfirst into the Andes Mountains. the pilot was killed on the spot. Peter was stuck in the mountains for 3 days, horribly injured and in pain too great to even move or call for help. Pablo Escobar had heard about the assassination plan. He'd sent out an army of men to find and kill the mercenaries.
And I said to one of the drivers, take me to where the massacre was, and I drove up. And there was a load of Europeans just lying there mowing down. They were mercenaries. And I remember one guy was hanging over a bush, holding the bush, and his brains were blown out, from the back. He'd been shot in the back of the head.
By nothing short of a miracle, Peter himself managed to escape the massacre. His almost fatal injuries had trapped him in the mountains long enough for Escobar and his army to think he was dead. Peter commented, "If Pablo had caught me, I would have had a long, drawn-out, painful death." Indeed, Peter was lucky that day. That's when it became clear to him what would have happened if he'd made it to Escobar's ranch. For Peter, it was a huge wake-up call and an incentive to start a fresh, peaceful life back in the UK. But since then, many others have perished in horrific ways after taunting violent, ruthless drug lords. El Cholo. The following story is almost too gruesome to mention. Much like Ramon Arellano Felix, Carlos Enrique Sanchez Martinez, aka El Cholo, was a cartel boss who went from friends to deadly enemies with a notorious drug lord. El Cholo was working alongside El Mencho in the Millennial Cartel in the 2000s. This is Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, the head of the bloody CJNG. When the Millennial Cartel boss was arrested, El Mencho, an ex-cop with military knowledge, reorganized the cartel into his own empire, CJNG. El Cholo was his right-hand man. But when El Cholo started questioning El Mencho's bloody, ruthless methods, El Mencho started to hate him. El Cholo retaliated by ordering assassinations without El Mencho's approval, and when he heard the cartel's financial boss ratted him out, El Cholo decided to kill him. This angered El Mencho even more. El Mencho declared open war on El Cholo. So El Cholo created his own small cartel, the Nueva Plaza, and when El Mencho ordered a hit on El Cholo, the latter countered the attack by killing the hit squad commander. Then, El Cholo allied himself with the giant Sinaloa cartel. Not only was El Cholo considered a dirty traitor, but he actually posed a real threat to CJNG. In March 2021, CJNG sicarios found El Cholo and kidnapped him. First, they filmed his confession.
In the video, you can see him sitting calmly flanked on all sides by armed sicarios as he delivers a confession. My name is Carlos Enrique Sanchez Martinez aka El Cholo. I am originally from Guadalajara, Jalisco.
But as he spoke to the camera, El Cholo revealed he was a double traitor. Reportedly, he'd cooperated with the authorities too.
I'm here because I'm an enemy of CJNG. I met with Omar Garcia Harfuch in the federal district so that he could give me his back. This is due to us both being after the CJNG, and he did give me his full support. But he told me that he needed something relevant in return, so that I could operate with his support and his people among the city.
Harfuch, the head of the Mexico City Police, denied such cooperation. But this didn't matter to the CJNG at the time. El Cholo was about to receive the toughest punishment a person could get. El Cholo was tortured for 2 whole days, kept alive by doctors. His legs were shattered, his ribs were broken, and his toes were cut off. He was electrocuted, his tongue was removed, and finally, his eyes were taken out. And El Mencho's psychopathic sicarios filmed everything and posted it online to spread their main message: everyone should fear the CJNG. A few days later, El Cholo's body was found on a bench in Jardín Hidalgo, Jalisco, wrapped in plastic with 2 signs stuck in it, reading, "The Traitor, El Cholo." El Pirata de Culiacán. Here's a sad twist. You don't even have to plan an assassination for a drug lord to take your life. In 2017, Juan Luis Lagunas Rosales, known as El Pirata de Culiacán, or the Pirate of Culiacán, was the talk of the town. He was a 17-year-old YouTuber with a myriad of followers and lots of teenage fans. But you could say he was famous for all the wrong reasons. Juan had had a tough life. He never knew his father, and his mother left him in the care of her own mother. When he was 15, he dropped out of school and took to the internet. His newfound internet fame earned him invitations to loads of parties, and he soon fell into a life of excessive drinking. He would post videos on social media showing him chugging beer and bottles of whiskey, sometimes getting so drunk he would pass out. It was these videos that went viral. In the years that followed, the binging pirate of Culiacan became a perverse YouTube sensation. At the age of 17, he had over 1 million followers on Facebook and more than 300,000 on Instagram. His social media fame started earning him spots in music videos and at promotional events. In 2017, Juan posted another video of him drunk beyond reason. This time, he made a joke. In the world of teenage YouTube consumers, this might have been funny, but in the world of drug lords with giant egos and terrifying armies, it wasn't. For those of you who hadn't heard of El Mencho, he is one of the most wanted drug lords in the world. His cartel, the Jalisco New Generation, or CJNG, is the fastest growing cartel in Mexico. It's the Sinaloa cartel's biggest enemy and Mexico's bloodiest cartel. Because of CJNG, kidnappings, torture, and beheadings have become the topic of daily news. Needless to say, Juan's joke was pretty risky. Then he made the mistake of posting on social media where he would be one night. At 11 p.m., 4 armed men entered the bar and shot him 15 times. His face was completely destroyed. The authorities could only identify him after his tattoos. A bartender also died that night, simply collateral damage in the eyes of the cartel. Ironically, the pirate of Culiacan found even more fame and death, but so did the CJNG, who once again spread the message of all notorious drug lords. This is what happens if you mess with us. No one, absolutely no one, is safe if they cross psychopathic drug lords. Hey, thanks for watching. We hope you liked this video. Make sure you click that like button if you did and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content.